everybody, Mark Schaffline with you, and this is the Schaffline Report. We're going to cover everything. We're going to cut through all the propaganda, give it to you straight from left, right, and center. The opinions are what counts. Hello everybody, Mark Schaffline with you, and this is the Schaffline Report. It's the weekend edition. Happy to have you with me today, and we've got an outstanding show for you. We're going to break down everything that happened in the political arena, and I'd like to start off the show with Greg Phillips as my guest. Greg is the creator of Ground Fusion AI, and he's a political analyst, knows his stuff. Welcome to Schaffline Report. Happy to have you with me today.
Man, thanks so much for having me. I look forward to this.
Hey, Greg, before we get started out, why don't you give our viewers and listeners some background on the company, how you started it, why you started it, and tell us a little bit about what it does, because you've been involved in a lot of political campaigns.
Yeah, I've been around a lot of blocks in the 44 years I've been in politics. I think the first time I did an election integrity effort was back in 1982. The first time I ever did a sort of a precinct type risk scoring was in 1984. We didn't have the tech, we didn't have anything. I mean, it's kind of a joke when I think back to what we were doing at the time versus what we're capable of now. My business partner, Catherine Engelbrecht, and I, she runs a group called True the Vote, truethevote.org. And what we've done with Ground Fusion is we've worked together to not just gather all of the voting rolls from around the country. Think of that as sort of our base. So we have 211 million records. But then we began the process of augmenting that data, and not just augmenting it with voting history, but augmenting it with cell phones and email addresses and consumer data. Now we have about 500 data elements for every single voter in America. So on the political side, we can go in and not just target and say, oh, I want to see everybody over 65 years old. We can go in and say, I want to see everybody over 65 that's a widow, that's widowed, that is on fixed income, that's renting their home, they're scared to death about inflation. They normally vote Democrat, but they didn't vote in this primary. And that would be sort of a cohort that we can carve out, and not just do it, say in Dallas or in on the East Coast or on the West Coast. We can do this at scale. And so
Wow.
we can run that same algorithm all over the country and drop a targeted piece of communication to them and say, hey, we know that based on your circumstances, we know you're worried about what's going on out there. Here's what Donald J. Trump wants to do. Here's what this Senate here's what this congressional candidate wants to do. It works even for down ballot races. And so the ability now to not just be able to micro target in that way, but be able to deliver them messages on the spot. And then as we get closer and closer and closer to the election, we've got new things coming out. Catherine and I have worked together to build something called Vote Alert. It's a think of it sort of Instagram for elections, where people can send things in. She runs a live call center, and all of it's going to be integrated. We're going to be able to tell people what's going on, who's reporting what, where it's all going. At the same time, our political side is still going to be working on getting the vote out, whether it's churches or one of those cohorts that I just described. We're doing things today that the left has been doing to us forever. And now we can not just do it, but do it at scale.
Well, that is fantastic news for the election and for the prospects of taking not only the White House, but the Senate. As you and I were talking before the show, Greg, give us your analysis of where this race is. And I'm coming at it from the following perspective. The Real Clear Politics average poll shows Harris up 1.8%. In other polling, she's up anywhere from 2 to 4 points. But on the other side of the ledger, Scott Rasmussen has Trump up 1 to 2 points. John McLaughlin, his pollster, has him up 2. Now, again, those are national vote references, so the popular vote. But really, Greg, in these swing states, things, at least on the public polling side, are showing an extremely tight race. But you have some thoughts that it may not quite be as tight as they're referencing. And you felt pretty good about the Senate piece, too.
Yeah, Trump underpolls dramatically, and he always has. I think before the last election in 2020, they had him down like 5.8 points or 5.6 points or something like that. He overperformed in those instances. And in these battleground states, I think what the the left has figured out is because of the battleground setup and because of his popularity there, that they obviously weren't going to be able to win with Biden. The truth is, I don't think they could win with Harris either, but she was sort of their best shot because she had all the money. They couldn't get rid of her, had to be able to, bring somebody else in, bring Walls in, and they create this sort of bogus campaign, give them all of the money that they would normally give and all the money that they would normally raise. I don't believe they believed then, nor do they believe now that she can win. And so I think what's happening here is they've got her sort of as a front to be able to say it's not Joe Biden, number one. Number two, her team's doing a pretty effective job in raising money, but I don't believe the White House. I don't believe it's about the Senate. I believe they know they're going to lose probably 4 or 5 votes. They lose the White House. I think what this all came down to was their recognition. If they lost the White House, they lost the Senate, and they lost the House, then they'd be toast. And so I think what's happening here, and the reason she's not coming is because she doesn't care, right? The only chance they have to even win the White House at all is if she gets out and explains who she is and what she is. And the second she does that, then they lose. So they're going to try to keep her under wraps as best they can. It gives them their only chance, possible chance for success. I don't even believe it's real. I don't believe it's possible. But what it does is it allows them to take a lot of that money that they would normally be spending in the White House and that whatever they've got now, $500 million or some kind of nonsense,
Yeah.
and start spending it in these congressional races. There are about 27 races that are in flux right now that really could go either way. And I believe what the left is doing, Pelosi and Schumer went and convinced Biden that if you don't get out, we're not just going to lose the White House and the Senate, but we're going to lose the House. And that's why Pelosi took such a huge kind of role in this. My people want you out. That's probably what she went and said to them. But now where they sit is they've got a ridiculous candidate who's, we like to talk about Biden as being the worst president in American history, right? If she's elected, she's the dumbest president in American history. You've got this cat she's running with is not just a liar, but there's some really scary stuff emerging about who and what this guy really is, with all of his time in China and a lot of time traveling around the world working on elections, but I'm out front about it. I tell people where I went, what I did, who I did it for. Why in the world for 30 years did this guy spend 3 months every summer in China? What is that all about? Who is this? And why do we want him in the White House or in any way, shape, or form, let alone as the vice president of the United States? And so I think if you take all of that bit of information and you step back, just divorce yourself from it all and think, you know what could they be doing here? They have to be trying to salvage the house because the rest of it doesn't make sense. This guy's an idiot. He's a fool. She's dumb as a door. And I just have to believe that where we all sit right now, and the reason you're starting to see people like, Scott and John and Brent Buchanan at Signal and some of the people that are, really talented on our side doing these polls, they know that Trump underperforms in the polls, but they want it that way, right? And so it gives us an opportunity to really look at numbers in a way that the left is not considering them. They have no idea who our voters are. For that matter, the RNC doesn't even know who our voters are. If you haven't given money to the RNC, they don't care about you, right? But you take people like Scott and Brent, and I mean, these people are really doing some amazing work out there, and the numbers that they're pushing through are real and legitimate. And the left knows that they're there. They're just letting the media kind of lie their way into this so that people don't lose hope on the left and stop turning out. That will kill them down ballot. If people decide not to turn out on the left for Harris because she doesn't have a chance, then
Yeah.
going. And so that this has all been pre-planned, right? To each other. They've sat behind closed doors and said, okay, guys, we now have to lie to the American public. And they made up this giant plan, this giant scheme. We're going to put Walls in. We're going to put Harris in. It's going to be great. We're never going to let her talk. Nobody's going to know who she is. And we're going to also lie and tell everybody that she's ahead by a couple points in the polls so that people will stay energized and people will still want to do it. The reality is, I mean, Trump's making moves that we've never seen before. In my 44 years in politics, Trump is going to win more than 20% of the African American vote in America. It's shocking. And I'll do even better than that. I think Trump, saying 2 months ago, I thought Trump stood a chance of winning a majority of the Hispanic vote of the males. Today,
Hmm.
I'm telling you, I believe that he has a chance to win the majority of the Hispanic vote, male and female. And I think that's how strong he is. And people, he is, he's sort of a conservativist, like an old school populist would be, like an Andrew Jackson kind of guy. Um, and as I look at it now, and I start thinking, there are some things that's being said out there, and people are talking about on the right that I don't really agree with. But the truth be told, I don't care. My my is we gotta support Catherine and the Truth Vote team so that they can work on the election integrity side. We've got candidates and down ballot races, including those 25 toss up House races that we need to be able to support. We're keeping our eyes focused, our eyes straight ahead, and I believe that America is doing the exact same thing with us. They're looking at this and they're saying, no. I don't want to
Yeah.
lose my job, and who knows what's going
It,
to happen if Harris got elected. I mean, we might as well just
oh,
close the doors.
Greg, you're right about that. I mean, the numbers that you've talked about, and I've been sort of racking my brain about this. If he gets anywhere close to that 20% of the African American vote, and if he even gets, we'll call it north of 45 on the Hispanic vote, there is no way that Donald Trump is not going to win this election. I hate to use a double negative there,
That's
but
right.
just statistic analysis alone, it would be virtually impossible for him to lose it if he even came close to approaching those numbers. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Greg, I want to talk a little bit about this gender divide that's going on in the country, and I want to talk about some of the economic news that popped out on Friday. Some of these numbers, folks, that every month we get revisions, and it is not pretty. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
Sounds rolling. All three cameras. We're good.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleading guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Brilliant military career, serving 33 years.
Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Every American needs this historical DVD keepsake. Flynn delivered the truth, whatever the cost. Hand signed by General Michael Flynn, one of America's most treasured military heroes. Order now at the Patriot TV store. Go to Patriot TV, click on Store, and grab a once-in-a-lifetime chance to own a treasured piece of American history. And get your own personal download link to watch America's most talked-about movie, as well as a DVD hand-signed by General Michael Flynn. Use promo code PTV at checkout to get special savings. The Patriot TV store. Incredible savings and a secure, hassle-free shopping experience.
And I'm back with Greg Phillips. Hey, Greg, before the break, we talked about the gender gap that's happening. And, as I scroll across various media outlets and I hear the reporting, all I ever hear is one side of it, meaning, okay, well, Harris has among women, she's 12 points, she's 14, a 15-point gap. And then I never get reported the fact that Donald Trump has almost the identical on the male side. Now, I don't like identity politics, but Democrats play it to the hill. Greg, what are you seeing inside these numbers? Is this gender gap as stark as it is? And if so, what type of effect is that going to have when they start counting the votes?
I think in the far Northeast, I think you do see some of this bias and this gender gap bias. You also see it on the West Coast. But if you really look hard into these battleground states, that gender gap vastly just diminishes down to almost nothing. The fact of the matter is, I mean, even in places like Pennsylvania, where there is a tiny bit of a gender gap, especially in the Philly suburbs. Um, this whole situation with her and fracking is a big deal for this reason. People in Pennsylvania understand that their state's economy is almost solely now tied to what's going on with fracking. And the fact of the matter is, of course, she changed her mind. She sided with Bernie. She does all this kind of crazy stuff occasionally that she used to do when she was in the Senate. But here's what's going to happen to her in this debate that's coming up next week. Donald Trump, or in his own inevitable way, whether it's asking her off target or off camera or however he does it, he's going to turn to her and he's going to say something like this. You keep changing your mind about fracking. Can you tell American people what fracking is? Can you imagine Kamala Harris trying to explain what hydraulic rock cracking actually is and how it works and what happens? And
I can't.
I mean, it would almost be worth the price of admission. And the only reason I even mentioned that, of course, that's an issue that males would respond to in a more meaningful way. But in Pennsylvania, male, female, it doesn't make any difference. They understand that, especially in the northern part of Pennsylvania and kind of outside of Philly and outside of Pittsburgh, um, people care about that issue. And when they hear her stumbling and bumbling, vomiting all over the stage on whether fracking really is, or why I mind, or whatever it is that she's going to say, um, you know, people, any confidence that they may in her dramatic. The other thing is she says the stupidest things, and I know everybody's calling it kind of, but it's sort of this sort of mixture between I may be the dumbest person ever to serve as vice president, and I am simply dumb, and, there's no way around it, right? It's not just that she's dumb for being a vice president; she's just dumb. And she's
Yeah.
not going to be able to get away from that. The men, women, Hispanics, blacks, whites, it doesn't make any difference. Dumb is dumb, and people are going to look at it and go, no. And that's why they're hiding her.
Yeah, I mean, it is just the most bizarre campaign ever. The fact that someone who's a major presidential candidate will not take questions from the media, and the media seems okay with it. It's just absolutely bizarre. And then, Greg, on the other hand, you have Donald Trump out there and JD Vance. I mean, they are everywhere. I mean, town halls, taking questions from the press, holding press conferences. Heck, even yesterday when Trump was in court, he's given like an hour-long monologue about what happened in court. Now, if I was a campaign strategist, I wouldn't have exactly advocated that, but because it's Trump, who the heck knows? I mean, I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm like, why is he doing this? I mean, I. But then again, go back to 2016. A lot of people thought that video, when he was standing outside the bus, that was going to kill him. No, it didn't at all. So I think maybe, Greg, opinions are just so baked in right now, and that sliver of voters. I mean, when we talk about undecideds, and the number could be 4 to 8%, that's on a popular vote basis. If you really break it down, the undecided voter in the 7 swing states, Greg, tackle that one for just a minute. That is an infinitely small number. And after Kennedy got out and asked his people to back Trump, Greg, I've just got to believe, Harris has $400 million in the bank. Okay. He's got plenty of capital too, but are they going to, I mean, you alluded to it earlier, they're probably going to spend the money with the House races, but how in the world can this campaign continue? Do you believe they're going to continue try to hide her and just play this all the way through to election?
Yeah, I think what they're going to do is they're going to try to continue to just stir up noise, right? And get people to be, hey, look at this shiny object over here, or look what we're doing over there. Or maybe the internet goes out for a couple of days and people panic. I can't vote. I can't do this. I can't do that. And it's all going to be sort of chaotic. But I think that's what they're doing at this juncture is they're doing everything that they can possibly do to foment chaos in America. Whether it's, these crazy Venezuelan gangs, taking over in Dallas and Chicago and in Aurora, Colorado, or whatever else they're going to do and whatever else they're going to say. They've restarted all the busing of people back into the United States from Mexico now. And they're going to do everything they can do to take our eyes as conservatives and as people that are working in this election. Catherine has long said, and I've just embraced this wholeheartedly, that sometimes it's not enough just to vote. And this is one of those times. In fact, we created these T-shirts that we're going to start selling here next week that say "Pray, Work, and Vote," and that's really where we are. But what they want you to do is they want you to take your eyes off the prize. They want you to stop focusing on the signal and just focus on the noise that they're going to create plenty of. But I think Americans are done with it. They're not going to take their eyes off this prize. For people that care about election integrity, there are more people involved in Catherine's election integrity efforts than ever in her 15 years in business. And on the other side, on the political side, I've never seen more volunteers and more people out doing things like that they are right now, knocking on doors, making phone calls, being sure that everybody they know is registered to vote, turning out to vote. This is a different animal this time. The left has never seen us this united before. They've never seen us this focused before, and they've never seen us out on the ground actually pounding the pavement and getting the job done. And they have no idea what to do about it. They're vomiting all over themselves, and they just can't get away from it.
Greg, that would be fantastic news if we end up pulling a surprise to the left like they've done to us in the past. And based upon some of the data that you're sharing with our viewers and listeners today, Donald Trump is poised to do very well, come November. Let me ask you this too, Greg. Yesterday on Friday, some economic news came out showing that we created 142,000 jobs, unemployment rate down to 4.2. But the fact of the matter is, they revised numbers in June and July downward significantly. And since those numbers were reduced significantly, it really offset those gains. I have a sense, Greg, that these real unemployment numbers are much higher than the Bureau of Labor Statistics are reporting, and that American consumers who are going to vote with their pocketbooks most of the time, they're not anywhere near feeling as good about the economy as the Biden/Harris administration would like you to feel.
Well, these liars want us to bite on both ends of this apple, right? I mean, on the one hand, they're allowing 15 million non-citizens in. On the other hand, they're saying they created 100,000 jobs. So which is it? So is the unemployment rate going down because they're not counting all the illegals that have come into the country, or is it down based on the original stuff? What are they doing here? The fact of the matter is, none of it matters anymore. What we have to focus is we have 60 days until this election. Ballots are starting to go out in several states this week. Early voting starts next week. And we've just simply got to focus. We've got to get our folks out to vote. We've got to be sure that they're not cheating, and we've just got to get after this. And whatever lies they've told and whatever they've bought themselves, we'll all come out after the election when the Trump team exposes all of this nonsense. Once we get our heads up under the covers and find out what kind of lies these people have actually been told. But until then, we have 60 days. Stay focused. Pray, work, vote.
I love that. I love that saying, Greg. Pray, work, and vote. I mean, you just follow that as an example, then Donald Trump will win this election. Hey, I mentioned it earlier. We talked about how tight these swing states are because, folks, really, the popular vote, it's a nice prize, if you will. But the big enchilada is those 7 swing states. Greg, let's break down some of those 7 swing states. And I've been saying this for the last couple of months. Pennsylvania seems to me like that's the big enchilada. And it's apparent to me based upon the dollars being spent on the campaign in the Keystone State and the candidates' time where they're spending their time. I mean, Donald Trump, if he wins Pennsylvania, and I have got to believe at this point, most polling, 14 out of the last 16 polls in Pennsylvania, show Donald Trump with a slight lead. Now, you've gone through the data. I mean, with her positions on fracking and the fact that I believe you're correct, Trump will get 20% of the African American vote. Greg, is there any chance reasonable chance? I know there's always a chance, but Donald Trump should come out with a win in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you hit it nail on the head on this. I mean, he's not going to lose Pennsylvania as long as they keep doing what they're doing. There's a ton of people on the ground, people like Sam Faddis and other friends of ours. That there's some amazing folks out there doing a lot of great work, whether it's get out the vote work or election integrity work. There are people banging on these doors. Catherine's doing some really cool initiatives up there. We're going to have cameras, literal cameras on drop boxes in Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin and possibly Michigan and maybe even a few more states. And look, there is so much excitement on our side about the work. And that's what's cool. It's not about, okay, he's going to win. We're good to go. Let's go watch football or go fishing or do something. That's not what's happening here. People are excited. If you build tools and you give it to them, they go out and do the work. Catherine had this, we built with her, built a tool called IV3, IV3.us. And what she was able to do was deploy it to tens of thousands of her volunteers. And they went through and cleaned off 1 million ineligible voters off of the voter rolls. 1 million. And all because she had the wherewithal and the intestinal fortitude to build, then implement it, give it to her volunteers. Here you go. That's happening all over America. It's not just our apps. It's everybody doing this. Everybody's throwing in together. There are alliances being created for people we didn't even know 5 years ago. Catherine's working some deals out with Lindell's people and some of their work. And it's just such a cool time to be where we are right now. And it's not that we all love each other, and maybe some of us don't, right? I mean, but the true north that we're following here right this minute is getting Donald J. Trump elected and winning the Senate. And most importantly, we have to win the House. Find some congressional district to work in. Go find a person, knock on doors for them, make phone calls, donate to them, do anything you can do to help these folks. Because if we do this and we pull this off, America will be changed forever. And there's nothing they can do about it because we will now know how to beat them. And that's where we stand today.
Well, Greg, I cannot thank you enough for coming on Chaffline Report today. I'd love to have you come back. I mean, we do Election Edge every day, Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, and we go through really details like you talked about today. So I look forward to having you back on, and thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll be back in 90 seconds, folks. See you at the other side of the break.
Don't let them win. Patriot TV is committed to delivering the truth. America's new network for Patriots is growing fast, and we'd love you to join us as a member of Patriot TV. Your support makes it possible for us to continue to deliver unbiased reporting, thought-provoking discussions, and insights you won't find anywhere else. From in-depth interviews to behind-the-scenes footage, Patriot TV brings you closer to the voices shaping our nation's future. Whether it's political developments, cultural shifts, or global affairs, Patriot TV keeps you informed and empowered. As a member of Patriot TV, you'll get perks like personal invitations to exclusive Patriot TV events, where you can gather and network with like-minded Americans. We'll also host online events throughout the year with General Flynn, who's committed to host live Q&A webinars where callers like you can ask him questions and get real answers. Access to these events will be members only, so go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member. It's fast and easy. We have a great membership option starting at just $9.99 a month, or save with our annual membership for only $99, or take advantage of the best value, the 2-year membership for just $159. Go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member. It's fast and easy. Do your part to make sure the truth gets out to all Patriots and help ensure future programming. Become a member today. Just go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member, join today.
And we're back. And folks, we've got a very special treat for you in the second half of the show here today. A longtime friend of Donald Trump, attorney Peter Tickton, is with us. Peter, welcome to Chaffline Report. Happy to have you as my guest today.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Hey, Peter, you have known Donald Trump a long time. I mean, I believe you guys met when Trump was in the military academy back a few years ago, shall we say. Can you describe to our viewers the Trump then and through the years? You've known him a long time, and just, on the personal side, share some things that maybe our audience is not familiar with, who obviously would turn into shows like this versus the mainstream media.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you something. The guy that you see, the authentic, he looks authentic. He looks like he's an honest, decent guy. The guy that I'm talking about, the guy that's got that presentation in the media, that's the same guy that I knew when he was 17 years old. We lived together in the barracks. He was my captain in our senior year. I've known him since we were 15, and he's the same guy. I mean, we used to give people names. When you're living among cadets, and one cadet has a certain thing about him, then you find the right name, the right nickname. There was that kind of thing. But more than anything, Donald was really well liked by the rest of the cadets, and he was liked the way he was because he always had our backs. You're talking about a guy. Like, for instance, mail call every day. I'm not sure what time it was, about 11:30. There would be a break from classes. The cadets would all gather back in our sections of the barracks, and the whole company would meet in one of the sections. So they'd be going upstairs and down the hall, and the captain in the front, he has all the mail. And this is mail from home, from basically kids that are acting like adults. Come on, men. It wasn't come on, boys. But the fact is that there was always those guys, a few guys that didn't hear from home for maybe even the whole year. They didn't get letters. They didn't get cookies sent in, whatever it would be. Just like it's kind of almost like camp, where some kids would get certain things from home. And he always knew who wasn't getting what other kids were getting. He always had his finger on that pulse, and he always kind of had that funny thing to say that kind of made it all better. I'm talking about a guy that had leadership qualities back when we were 17 years of age that are unusual. Other captains of other companies would use, would use, physical punishments, sometimes brutally. And it wasn't as though Donald would hardly ever do such a thing. He would never do such a thing. It was just, he really was a good person, a good human being. They say you don't know anybody till you live with them. Well, I've lived with Donald Trump, and his character was already in place when he was 17 years old, and he was just as good of a person as anyone could imagine. So, I
Peter,
could go on.
Yeah, I want to ask you this to bring it forward to sort of today's, we're 60 days out from an election. And Peter, you're an attorney. What do you make of this media obsession? I'm talking about, our left-wing media that have this, I can only describe it as an obsession to where every story on Kamala Harris, they try to paint with just this beautiful, gracious, rosy story. And on President Trump, it's just the opposite. There is an obsession to say negative things about the president. And again, I've had the privilege of meeting him and talking to him before, and he is one of the most nicest guys you ever meet. He's sharp, articulate, and some of the work that he's done in the
and that's really him.
Peter,
yeah, that's really him. That's the guy. Well, let me put. I can explain it because one of the things that I've done. I've represented Donald Trump. I'm the one that filed the lawsuit against Hillary Clinton, and for 9 months he had me marshaling the evidence regarding January 6th. But people didn't just send me evidence about January 6th. I got things you wouldn't want to. I'm sorry I even have them in my head. But if I go back and I look at what the heck's going on in this world, not just from that information, but that kind of put me in a mindset where I have more. But this thing all goes back to 1972, where Klaus Schwab started an organization about a European Economic Forum, so to speak. And then it did morph into a World Economic Forum, WEF. It's what a lot of people refer to it as.
Mm-hmm.
And WEF has grown. I mean, it has, there are about 3,300 billionaires on the planet, and almost, not all of them, because I don't think that Elon Musk is part of it. I don't think Donald Trump is part of it, but basically almost every one of them is a member and have pledged 30% of everything that they own towards the purposes of this organization. And this organization, we talk about the cabal. We talk about, they're Marxists and they want to do this and they want to do that. Yes, that's all true. But why? And it all goes back, and to a great extent, what fits hand in hand with these Marxists is the whole idea of saving the earth from climate change. Now, I don't want to get into the issue of whether this is true or not true, that there is climate change going on. But let's just say that these people absolutely firmly understand and believe that it's true. And they've looked and found a certain solution, which is a horrible solution as to what to do. But basically, they've got almost every world leader on board. And they've got all this money from all those billionaires and so on that are able to then purchase up all the media. So this is coming full circle to your question, is why is the media backing, first it was a person who had brains and then lost them through dementia. And now they have a person who didn't have any brains to begin with. So, they, if I may, I'm sorry, it may not be nice to say that,
No,
but
please,
this
go
woman,
ahead.
if she's in place, it doesn't make any difference if she has any brains, because she's just going to be the same kind of puppet that Biden was to this cabal that I'm talking about. And, and we can't look at it and sort of saying, oh, well, there's two different philosophies and we like this philosophy better, because it's no longer Democrat versus Republican. Now, Donald Trump himself has said that it's no longer the two. Now it's MAGA versus crazy. But it isn't crazy. It's people that are absolutely dedicated to saving this world. And they don't see themselves as Mr. Evil in a Superman movie. They see themselves as heroic and as doing what needs to be done. The problem is they just want to kill us and not themselves. This isn't like a fair way of dealing with it. And they haven't looked to other solutions that could be possible. In science today, have they investigated the idea of putting some kind of reflecting devices? Why geoengineer the planet by reducing population as opposed to geoengineering the planet in some other ways that could be investigated and dealt with, if that's what their beliefs are? And I know, Peter, I'm going far beyond where normal people are speaking, because
not at all. You stick with that train of thought, because Klaus Schwab and the globalists that go to Davos every year, that they do not have our viewers' best interest at heart under any circumstances, Peter.
No, I have seen a video. See, this is the thing. I was just inundated with so many things. An email that ordered the hit on Seth Rich. I've held it in my hands. There's so many things that came into me. But one of them is a video that I got to see of one of the members of WEF, who was basically saying what we needed was a means of reducing the population without violence. And he was so excited because he was explaining to his audience, and now we have that. He didn't go further and explain exactly what it was, but that's part of what I've been exposed to and seen that puts me in this position where I'm looking at it I'm zoomed out. I'm looking at it from 30,000 feet, as opposed to looking at it from the details and the minutia, of, well, look at this woman. She wants to make it criminal to express yourself. If you're going to say anything that she doesn't like, that's going to be misinformation. And she wants to basically get the Department of Justice on this now. So, what does that really mean? I understand in the last year in China, there have been 400 people that have been arrested due to things that they've put said in the public that are contrary to what the party wants. But there have been,
and that's only what and Peter, that's only what they've publicly disclosed. You and I both know the CCP, that number's probably 10 times that high in China.
I know, but my point is that in the UK, which has now gone a step beyond. They do arrest people. They want to arrest even Elon Musk for not saying that whatever the party line is. These in the UK, they've arrested over 3,500 people for what they've said. So we're getting into a world now where England is gone, Canada is gone, our educational system is gone, our media is absolutely bought and sold. Okay, I mean that's gone. There's so much that's gone. They got the presidency, they got the Senate right now, which we can and need to take back. I did enjoy seeing Greg Phillips on your show. He and Catherine Eckelbrecht, they did a great job with 2,000 Mules. It shows one of the forms of cheating, and we have people now that are going to be manning those ballot boxes. They're going to be present, taking pictures of people's license plates and so on. And I don't know that anybody's going to keep that job for more than a day, because they're going to, when they go to, they will go to as many as 12 different ballot boxes in a day. And if somebody's taking a picture of their license plates in 12 different places, I don't know that they're going to come back to work the next day when they realize that they're in jeopardy. So, so there's a lot of things, just like he was saying, that are going on that are going to be very helpful.
Peter,
I think we got it. I think we got it made.
Well, I want to talk to you about that after. We're going to take a quick 90-second break, but when we come back, I want to dive into your thoughts on where we are election-wise now, and I also want to touch on the lawfare that Trump was experiencing, just as an example on Friday. Big news that came out relative to a couple of his court cases. We'll get back with Peter on that on the other side of the break. See you in 90 seconds.
Don't let them win. Patriot TV is committed to delivering the truth. America's new network for patriots is growing fast, and we'd love you to join us as a member of Patriot TV. Your support makes it possible for us to continue to deliver unbiased reporting, thought-provoking discussions, and insights you won't find anywhere else. From in-depth interviews to behind-the-scenes footage, Patriot TV brings you closer to the voices shaping our nation's future. Whether it's political developments, cultural shifts, or global affairs, Patriot TV keeps you informed and empowered. As a member of Patriot TV, you'll get perks like personal invitations to exclusive Patriot TV events, where you can gather and network with like-minded Americans. We'll also host online events throughout the year with General Flynn, who's committed to host live Q&A webinars where callers like you can ask him questions and get real answers. Access to these events will be members only, so go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member. It's fast and easy. We have a great membership option starting at just $9.99 a month, or save with our annual membership for only $99, or take advantage of the best value, the 2-year membership for just $159. Go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member. It's fast and easy. Do your part to make sure the truth gets out to all patriots and help ensure future programming. Become a member today. Just go to patriot.tv, click on Become a Member, join today.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most precious assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900.
And we're back with Peter Tickton. Peter, before we went on the break, we were talking about the lawfare that Donald Trump is experiencing. And just yesterday on Friday, his one case, the sentencing piece to the hush money case, was extended past the election day. And his other case, he was actually in court on that ridiculous E. Jean Carroll case. But I mean, Trump has survived these things in the past. What's your take on what the government and the Democratic Party is trying to do to this man? Because it seems like it's lawfare at all costs, and this man is being subject to something that no American should be subject to.
I know. And I got to tell you, my biggest concern, my biggest worry right now, the more it is looking like Donald Trump is going to win the election. My biggest concern is for his safety. And because you take a look at what they did, I mean, I've heard many people say it, so I don't want to just say what other people were saying, but basically it's true. Don't forget, I did file the case against Hillary Clinton, and that was all about the Russian collusion nonsense, and what she did and what the Democrats did there, and it went from that to impeachments to you name it. And now the criminal charges that are against Donald Trump. But I mean, in a way, that's backfired against the Democrats, okay, or whatever you want to call them, the leftists, whatever. They basically, it woke up the black community. And that's why I think that, when Greg Phillips talks about 20% of the black community, I think it's going to be more than that, because these folks are not stupid. And the Democrats are treating them as though they are. They think they're monolithic, and they think that they basically don't watch the news and have no brains at all. I mean, how insulting, how stupid. I have too many black friends, black judges, black associates that are just too smart to be fooled by in this way. They're not going to say, "Oh, well, we're told by the Democrats we have to do this way." It's not going to happen. And the same with the Latinos. The Hispanic population is also that these people are awake. Yeah, I know the ones that sold out, the ones that are on the take, so to speak, they're going to be the way that they always have been. And to a certain amount, they're going to drag people with them. But that 20% that Greg Phillips was talking about, those are vocal people. Those are people that are intelligent. They're thought leaders, and they're bringing people with them as well. So we've got that group of people. We've got Bobby Kennedy probably is bringing in 10 million votes alone. I mean, when he had to raise the millions of dollars he needed to and get all the signatures, they had a network that extended to 1 million people right there. So it's not unreasonable to think that he could be bringing 10 million votes right just by that one man. I think we've got it made, as long as people don't take it, for granted, and as long as they go to the polls and vote. I think we've got it. And with Kamala, I mean, this woman is not inspiring. She's not she's not going to have people who are going to stand out in the rain if it's raining or whatever, that are going to go to the polls on election day because it's her. Because it's her, they're not going to bother. So I think we'll fail. I think it's going to be as Donald Trump has wanted, which is going to be too big to rig. And I think we're going to do just fine in terms of the election. I'm extremely hopeful in terms of it, because I mean, once, people were saying he's so loud, he's so boisterous, he's so this, he's so that. The fact of the matter is he's actually a wonderful person. I mean, he isn't any of these terrible things. So give him enough exposure. The more exposure he gets, the better it is. Where the more exposure she gets, the worse it is for her. So that's what we're dealing with. But I want to just make this one point. If I have one point to say, it's that people need. This isn't just a difference. It's going to make a change of who's sitting at the Resolute desk in Washington. It's not going to be that. It's going to be whether you and your family are miserable and hungry, or whether or not you're getting to live in the best that America can offer. Because, the difference between Donald Trump is he gets things done and he's logical and sensible. These other people are just, I don't know, if I just say the word crazy, I think it gets the idea across. But I mean, why would we ever have an open border? It doesn't make any sense unless you put two and two together and realize that it all has to do with what the globalists are looking for, what their goals are. And that's where it all goes.
Yeah, no question, Peter. I mean, that is what their goal is. They want open borders. They want to get eventually, Kamala Harris she's so non-committal on every issue, whether it be reparations, whether it be granting citizenship to these illegals coming across. The constant flip-flopping on positions, fracking issue. She was against it. Now she's for it. Medicare for all. I mean, folks, she was to the left of Bernie Sanders. Peter, if Trump's got a debate on Tuesday night, you've known him a long time. As his counselor, what type of advice would you give him heading into that debate on Tuesday that is going to be a real critical piece for the election?
Of all the people that I know that doesn't need any advice, he's the one. Because she's gonna do what Biden did. She's gonna screw it up for herself as long as she doesn't have things memorized. And even if she does, it's just as I was saying, she needs the more exposure she gets, the worse it is for her. And Donald just needs to be himself. He'll have a good time up there. If he's enjoying himself, if he's in the right mood, he's going to come across just fine. The dichotomy is going to be apparent.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And again, he has had many presidential debates. She won't even sit down with the media. I mean, one canned 18-minute edited conversation with Dana Bash at CNN in a very friendly setting. Peter, I just think at a certain point, the American public is going to see through this nonsense because she's the stealth candidate, again, elected by no one, and now she's sitting here effectively tied in the polls nationwide. Donald Trump may be up in the swings. Yeah, no, I said nationwide on a popular vote, but in the swing states, my belief is that Donald Trump has got the lead in probably minimum 5, maybe all of those swing states, Peter. You've got some thoughts on where the status of the race is right now. Is he up in all 7 of these swing states?
Irrespective of whatever any of these polls have to say, he is. He's always underestimated. So if by as much as 7 points. So if he's tied, then he's not tied. There's a lot of people that have a reluctance to say anything in terms of Donald Trump. It's kind of interesting. One of the things that I do, I give a number of speeches in different places. And one of the things I do encourage people to do is wear their red MAGA hats when they get out there. And I'd like to ask, I know it's not pertinent to your question, but I'd like to just take this opportunity to say that I always travel. I travel a lot. And every airport and wherever I'm wearing my MAGA hat. And 4 years ago, I did the same thing, and I had a lot of dirty looks. Now I wear my MAGA hat. I'm not getting any dirty looks. And I get so many people coming up to me saying, I love your hat, and so on. It's actually turned into a lot of fun for me to wear it because of the reaction that I get. And, I can't tell people to wear it and not wear it myself. So I do. And the feedback that I get is just terrific. So I just want to, if anybody has a red MAGA hat, you have it for a reason. Wear it. I can almost assure you're going to be happy you did. It's not going to be hostile. I even have, people on the plane, the flight attendants are saying they like my hat. So it's really, things have changed.
Well, Peter, you actually took the time to write and I saw the pictures there. Those are great pictures of you in the MAGA hat. You took time to write a book about Donald Trump. Can you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about your book based on your friendship with Donald Trump?
Well, sure. I mean, I think the most important point I have is, with Donald Trump, you have somebody who's not afraid. I mean, we saw him after he got his ear shot. Where he's up there with his fist and fight. This comes from NEMA. This comes from the New York Military Academy. We all went in there with different kinds of attitudes, and he was a bit of a wise ass the way he was. But it didn't take the people that ran the place very long to get him to turn around and be the kind of person that succeeds. And that what it really is that they make you so afraid of whatever kind of corporal punishment and anything else that's going to happen. But then during the course of that year, they also somehow the way it works, and maybe it's not intended by anybody, but the way it works is You learn to stand up to those forces, those people that are making you do this or that or whatever. And that's what we learned how to do. And once you stand up to the things that you're afraid of, it lasts the rest of your life. You're not afraid. I mean, we had all these presidents that promised to move the embassy to Jerusalem in Israel. And yet every single one of them wimped out when push came to shove, except for Donald Trump, because he's just not afraid. He doesn't work out of fear. He works out of logic. He works out of what needs to be done, and let's do it. And that's why we need him, because we got a mess here to clean up. I mean, and he's the guy that can do it. He knows how to fix things. That's his mentality. That's what he does. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Put a clown like another puppet in there that's going to keep the borders open? Can you imagine another 4 years of that?
Oh,
What this
God,
country's
no.
going to be like?
Oh, no,
I'm telling you.
it would tear the country apart, tear it apart.
You know, I mean, the
And
30 by 30 is a program that every country in the world is subscribed to, which is to basically get rid of 30% of their farmland, turn it back to nature. We're going to, if this can go on and we don't have somebody Donald Trump in place, I'm telling you, it's going to affect every single person in America, and their lives are not going to be happy the way they can be.
No, a lot
So
of things could change quickly. Peter, we got a minute left. I'll put you on the spot sort of a little bit. Share with our viewers your favorite Trump story, if you will. Again, you've known him a long time, and something our viewers may not know about the president.
Well, I can just tell you, like one time I caught a thief, okay, and I brought him to Donald, and Donald had the brains to have him empty his pockets, and we found some other things that he stole from somebody. But the main thing that he was concerned about, because we had the honor code, which we all subscribe to, and that is you don't lie, cheat, or steal from another cadet, period. No, that's not questioned. And yet for that night, we had to, before the guy was sent home, we had to make sure that nothing happened to him if we had to stay up all night. It just shows you, even for somebody like that, Donald Trump cares about whether or not anything bad should befall him. He's a good guy, Donald Trump.
Well, Peter Tickton, I want to thank you for joining me on Schaffline Report today, taking some time with our viewers. Fascinating read, folks. And Peter, again, thank you for being my guest today. It's been a pleasure having you on Schaffline Report.
It's a really good pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, folks, we'll be back next weekend. More hard-hitting stuff. And stay with Patriot TV. We're everywhere. We're on Twitter. We're on X, Patriot TV, Rumble. Stick with us. Great programming ahead.